On a traditionally managed project, one person finishes their job and then hands the project off to the next person. The second person does their work and then hands things off to a third person, and so on. This is the opposite of how a good Agile team works. Hi, I'm Mike Cohn. I've helped thousands of teams succeed with Agile, and I want to help you too. With Agile, team members strive to overlap their work. A programmer starts coding while the designer is still designing, and then a tester begins testing while programming is still happening. Two good things happen when an Agile team overlaps work like this. First, they shorten the time to value. When team members overlap work, it takes less time to complete a feature or product that can then be delivered to customers and users. A shorter time to value increases the value of a product. If you're selling the product, you can start selling it sooner. You also get a reputation of being faster and more responsive at adding features, so you can often sell your product for more. The same benefits exist for internal use software. If your coworkers are waiting for your team to solve a problem for them, solving it earlier is a win. It's important to note that time to value can go down even if the time it takes to do each step goes up. And some tasks will take longer when overlapped. Testing will take longer, for example, when it overlaps coding. Some tests will need to be run multiple times, and there can be inefficiencies when overlapping. But time to value still goes down. If getting your product into users' hands as quickly as possible is important, this outweighs any slight inefficiencies. The second good thing that happens when individuals overlap their work is that we accelerate the feedback. Suppose, for example, that a programmer is using a new commercial component. The component seems to work fine for the programmer, but when it's given to testers, they discover it won't scale, occasionally crashes, or can't handle realistic amounts of user data. When coding and testing overlap, the team gets this feedback much earlier. That gives them time to consider looking for a new component, fix the problems in this one, or perhaps develop their own. To see how this might work, I'm going to pick a really small feature, something you might think is too small for work to overlap. Logging into something. It could be any product, a website, an app, or anything else. Work on the login capability begins with a conversation. A product owner explains what's needed, and the programmer and tester ask any questions they have. You can imagine more people involved if you'd like, but 3 is enough to make a good example. In this conversation, the product owner explains that they need users to be able to log in, log out, reset their password, ask to be remembered by this system, and they need to enter a strong password. After the product owner states what's needed, I'd like the programmer and tester to discuss where to start. That's probably a very short conversation because there's a very natural starting point. If a user enters their correct credentials, they're logged in. If they enter the wrong credentials, they're not. The programmer starts coding this. While that's happening, the tester is creating the test plan, creating test data, and perhaps even scripting how the data will be executed. When the programmer is done, they hand their code to the tester, who has already created the test data needed for validating this part of the overall feature. And the two talk about what to do next. Perhaps they agree to do the password reset feature next. The programmer starts coding that while the tester validates that the first chunk of code works as expected. That won't take long because, remember, the tester has already created a test plan and test data. After that, the tester extends the test plan to include resetting a password. Both the programmer and tester finish, and the programmer hands over a new build that includes password resetting. The two discuss what to do next, and they choose to work on requiring users to enter a strong password. And the pattern repeats. In overlapping work this way, the team is shrinking the size of the handoffs between programmer and tester. When first adopting Agile, many teams will have a programmer work on a product backlog item, finish it, then hand it off to a tester. That's a start, but what you really want is for product backlog items to be handed off one acceptance criteria at a time. In this example, we had a product backlog item, quite possibly a user story about logging in. The acceptance criteria for that were users can log in with the right credentials, users are denied if they enter the wrong credentials, users can log out, users can reset their passwords, users can ask to be remembered by the system, and users need to enter strong passwords. As each is started, the programmer and tester and others as needed do their parts. They overlap their work. You can see from this how overlapping work will result in completing the backlog items sooner. This is true even if we assume the individual tasks take a bit longer because of the overhead of extra communication. In many ways, overlapping work is an indicator of how agile a team is. The more a team can overlap work, the faster and more responsive to change the team can be. This video is part of a series on how to work as an agile team. Be sure to check out the rest of the videos by clicking the on-screen links. In the comments, let me know how your team is doing at overlapping work. I read every comment, and many of the questions there turn into my next videos. If this video has been helpful, click the like button. And if you're new to the channel, click subscribe so you don't miss out on future tips to help you succeed with Agile. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.